Oh, I got it. Oh, there's a bedroom back here. Recording, waiting for people to get on. It's all gonna be part of the recording. Should I pause it?
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, so now you all can hear that. So I will be recording just for our clients. So to be able to watch this later. So this is my nice basement here. So you can kind of see some baby wipes and all that in the background, some old clothes. But anyways, so yes, you will want a
setting,
pen and paper, and then also you will also want pen and paper, yeah. And then again, I did put in the comments as an outline for viewing for kind of what I'll be going through step by step of the way. And then if you have any questions or comments, feel free. Just unmute yourself, chat, or pop in the chat. I have that box open as well. So I'm going to share my screen, and then so a little slideshow will be following. But again, like I said, which one do I want? Sorry, I am. I want my desktop. Yes. You'd think I've never done this before, but I have. Okay. And hopefully you all make this a presentation. Make this bigger. Let me make this bigger. Yes, it's embarrassing. It's like I've never done this before. Sorry about this. And I did practice this, man. You'd think just showing up to this. Oh, crazy. Anyways, but yeah, tonight's goal, as I get my slideshow up, tonight's goal is really for by the end of it is for you to, have a big picture goal kind of broken down into then, what to do in the next 30 days. And then also then have the steps to take to accomplish that. And also more importantly, as we'll learn, is the habits to create to be successful with hitting that goal. As for looks like Paula dropped in. Hello, Paula. So that was kind of like the main outcome at the end of all this. The hope is that you will actually have like a game plan to go to accomplish your goals for this year, but more importantly in the next 30 days. So crazy slideshow. Okay, and we are slow to load. I don't understand this. Okay, so when it comes to so now you can just look at a blank screen. So when it comes to setting goals, there we go. Best year ever workshop. You just need to play. Okay. Okay. Look at that. 5th time's a charm. All right. So the best year ever workshop. So the first thing when it comes to setting, this isn't annoying me so bad. Sorry. No. Now you got to preview. Okay. So a big thing that we're going to cover today is going to be these kind of 5 things kind of broken down. So we have our 5 keys to kind of hitting your best year ever. It used to be 4, but I added a 5th because Doug used to do this previously, and now I'm doing it. So I added my own little twist to it. And so you'll kind of see, and again, hopefully you all can see me. If you can't hear me or anything like that, please put in the comments. I'm paying attention to that. But I'm not going to get too much into it. So number 1, as we kind of look at this structure here, it's like a wide funnel, and ideally it comes down to a point of where you actually are today. And so when you're looking at setting goals, you don't have to go this broad, but it does go as broad as your worldview or like your life's mission or purpose or how you want to define that. So it can go as big as that. And we're not going to get into that too much tonight, but it is important that, your purpose, your mission, your values, your vision, your goals, and your habit, they all kind of align or kind of stack vertically, just to one, if your goals don't really match your values and they don't really fall in line with your purpose, they're not going to be as fulfilling, and there's a lower chance that you'll stick with them just because they might not resonate with who you are as well. So I would encourage you all to just to kind of, are they aligned with each other? When we're seeking goals, a lot of times we say we want to live a more balanced life. We want it more balanced, but a lot of times when we're really looking to accomplish something, it is actually unbalanced, but it is aligned with what we're looking for, whether that at that time or moment. So all these things can change, through the age. Like our values, as 18 or 19-year-olds are probably different than when we're 30, 40, 50. They can change. And so kind of reevaluating these periodically is also good to do as well, just because we grow and adapt as human beings. So the first thing we actually want to do in this whole process is actually go back one step, because I missed the slide, and is really looking at the year and saying, reflecting back on some of the good moments that we've had. So when we're setting goals for the future, it's very easy to forget about all the good things that we have accomplished, last year as well. And so it's really good to take that moment and kind of write down a couple of proud moments, which I'll have us do. Again, a proud moment doesn't have to be I accomplished X goal, but a proud moment could look like something like I was able to say, yes to fewer things, or no to more things, or I was able to delegate stuff. It can be a pretty broad spectrum, but what I'll have us do is just take a couple of moments, jot down, let's say two to five things that you're really proud of this last year. And then if you want to, feel free to share them in the comments. But again, I'll give us just like 2 or 3 minutes just to quickly jot down just 2 to 3 things that you are proud of. If there's more, fill up a page, but I'll give us that time. And I'll also be doing this along with us because it's important stuff. So just take a second, write down, again, 3 to 5 things that you're proud of from 2022, and then we'll move on. I might share some of mine. Let's see.
Jude. Hi, Josh.
Who's talking to me?
Darcy
Hey.
Johnson.
Wait, who am I
Right
missing?
here.
Oh, there you are, Doris. Hey, Doris.
Yeah. So how many people are logging in?
We should have 9, but so right now we're just writing down some proud moments that we had from 2023. So
Proud moments we've had in 2023.
Oh, sorry, 22. Yeah, I'm already done with this year, so moving on to.
I was like, it's only been 2 weeks.
And so yeah, we'll give us about another like 15 or so seconds just to wrap up some of your proud moments, and then we'll kind of move on to our next step in this process. But let's see.
I don't think I was proud of anything, Josh.
Well, dig deep, Doris. So. Let's see. Awesome. So again, we kind of use the proud moments and reflection. If you have more, great. But to really just look at some of the stuff you might have accomplished, it should ideally also give you maybe just a little more optimism, because it is very easy to be pessimistic, thinking about, well, I've tried this before, I've done this and it didn't work out. And so reminding you of times where you did succeed or things that went well from the past year is always important, because we are kind of just how we're wired a lot of times is to really hold on to the negative things and just kind of brush off the positive. And you can say that's from like our fight or flight response to keep us safe, but we are kind of, most of us are wired to remember the negative more than some of the joys that have happened throughout the year. So we talked on a little bit on values. So we kind of had our mission or our purpose or life purpose. Underneath that is values. Values are, I like to look at them as the guardrail. So if you're, now I'm building a house here, your roof is going to be, your purpose, the sides, the structure of it will be values, and inside there will be all your what we call visioning and all that. So it kind of houses all that structure. And so the the values, like for at Sperling, we use values quite a bit in deciding things like hiring decisions, to making sure that they don't violate our values. They're a little bit more formal, like things like curiosity, kindness, play, humility, things like that. But your values might be something like speaking purposely is like family time is very valuable to me. What is very valuable to me is being able to go out and be in a good enough shape to go hiking and do activities with my family. So those are some values that I hold pretty close. And so what we'll do next in this is just writing down, I wouldn't say, as many as you really want, but I would say we're just focusing on, 2 or 3 values, up to 5 values that you find very important to you in your life. And if you have any more clarification on that, then please chime in. But we're just going to take some time to write down, I'd say anywhere between 2 to 5 values that are really important to you. And I would say maybe I don't have to define you, but that really align with and resonate with who you are. So again, I'll just give us, let's say like 2 minutes. And again, if you have any questions or anything like that, just chime in, buzz me. Let's see if I can pop it. Bridget, hello Bridget. Paula, Doris, Janine. Wonderful seeing y'all.
So are these values things that you do accomplish or that you respect, and even though you're not good at it?
So ideally, the things that you do accomplish, I think there's things that you can respect, or I guess values you would hope to have. I guess those are more.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Something I would hope, I wish I was like that. Like I respect that, but I know I'm not like that.
Yeah. Because some of them can be more of like, you can write down things that are valuable to you. And then I guess there is more like character trait values as well. So like I value, integrity very high, do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And usually you're also good at it, because then you're kind of frustrating yourself all the time by not living up to it. So then you might question, is that actually a value of mine? I like that, but it may not be as valuable if I keep on
Failing at it.
Yeah, failing or violating it. So you might question that a little bit, but it could be a goal to work towards and take steps. As mentioned before, like values do change over time. So some like using integrity. You could have been a high school kid that was just never reliable, and then like when I was young, I was very lazy. Played. I'm not saying video games are bad, but I would play like 12 hours of video games a day and didn't do anything. And then that changed, and I fell in love with like work ethic and being outside and being physical, and that changed over time. So I think they can definitely change through phases. But yeah, ideally, like kind of writing down the values that you kind of hold kind of now is going to be really helpful, especially when we're looking at even deeper things like defining that goal. Because if the goal doesn't really fit in the values, you're going to have maybe a little bit more work to do than if it kind of fits within that structure of values. So an example of that might be just sticking kind of with like being active. So I know spending time with my family and being active is important to me. So I am going to be more like apt to exercise and keep up with it, even though I don't always enjoy it. But by not doing that, it would take away from something I value. Also, from an integrity standpoint, it is my job, so I should be somewhat good at it. So
Yeah, you should.
I should be somewhat.
Should, Josh.
Yeah. So as well on that. I keep on click. So the next thing we're going to kind of work on. So ideally at this point, we have some proud things. We have some values that are valuable to us. And then the next one, this might be new to some people and it might not be. I never heard of visioning until we started using it a lot at Sperling. Maybe it was 5-6 years ago. And essentially what visioning is, what's really nice about it, it's not like writing a fantasy, but it allows you to put yourself into the future and write down an idealized, a kind of perfect scenario, what the ideal scenario, how something will come. And so visioning can be done so at Sperling, we have like a 5-year vision, we have a 3-year, and then we do like a yearly vision. And then we do, like, I want to say silly, but little things like, even we'll in a meeting we'll be like, what does the ideal strong session look like? Let's vision like the perfect session. And then from there we'll be like, okay, what are we not doing to get to that? And so it just allows you to suspend like all this, like, I can't do that, I don't know how to do that, I don't know how to even get to do that, but it allows you to at least write it down as an ideal, and then from there kind of take out what you want to work on. And so with visioning, a couple of the steps, so we will do some, we will write a vision today, or at least write a draft. So you can do multiple drafts of this. If you haven't done it, it is a little different, but once you do it a couple times, it is nice just because it allows you to kind of think big and kind of idealize. So you're really going to pick a topic from there. I would recommend today just doing like a year vision out. So once you have a topic, and I'll give you some ideas based off of, the 7 dimensions of wellness is a good place to start. And then once you have that, step 3 is proud moments, which we did, just because it puts you in a more positive mindset. So sometimes when we're doing this and we're like more pessimistic or something like that, our vision could be all cloudy for the future. And that's not necessarily what we want. We want a little bit, ideally more cheery or a little bit more fulfilled. Life isn't perfect, but just envisioning as it can be. And then you're going to end up writing the draft. And a couple of tips for this: go for something great. So a lot of times we're just, and I'm there, like I call myself a realist sometimes, but you're just always thinking about the hurdles and like how could I even do that? And really just trying to write out what you want that feeling to be, what you think it could look like, and starting there. And then the B underneath number 4 is figuring out the how later. So I'm a want to, like, if I hear a problem, I want to fix it. I don't necessarily want to listen. I just want to fix it. So that's a struggle of mine. But so that's why visioning has helped as well, is just write it down and we'll figure it out later. Getting to the future. So talking like you're already there, you're experiencing it. This kind of helps too. A lot of times, you hear the stuff like, live in the moment, be present. That's extremely important. But also, if we're not, thinking about our future selves and what we might want it to look like, then we're not living. You're almost that kind of fake it till you make it. You want to start living a little bit like that future self that you're hoping to get to, which is taking those action steps. And then the last one is kind of what we call like a hot pen. So we'll go for like 5 minutes. We'll go hot pen. So you're just going to write out. You might want to get to a small section. You might be really fast. We get to a large section, and then eventually, which we won't do today, we'll do a little review. We won't do a redraft, but we'll review the vision, and then from there you'll come up with ideally your goals that also fit in with your values. And then the other stuff will be like input from advisor. So like that could be, I would say, like if you're doing like a family vision. So it's nice to do personal, but like if you have a family, it's good to be on the same page. And then, sharing your vision. Like if I wrote up one personally for my family, I would share it with my wife. She would give feedback, hopefully. And we would be like, okay, that's something we both want to pursue versus one or the other. But those are kind of the steps. What I do want to flip over to is the 7. Let's see, the 7. Did I have here? Yes. Come on. Okay. What we have is, let's see this. You can't, because I'm sharing my screen. So you can. It's like talking to myself. Sorry. Technology. You know what? I was already scrolled down. So that's the problem. I need to scroll up. Okay. So what we have, oh no. So we have the the 7 dimensions of wellness. So number 1 is going to be physical, so taking care of yourself. Number 2 would be like intellectual, so challenging the mind. So it's easy to, over time become complacent. So doing that, whether that's education or even trying something new. Been watching a lot of baking shows, don't like baking, so I'm not going to do that. But it could even be like a new hobby or something like that, which gets you thinking and learning. Emotional understanding feelings. That sounds no, not really, but that's a hard one. But it is important. So that could be an area for Josh. But to write in financial, creating, whether that's security or being able to give, whatever that might be. Maybe that's something you would want to vision about. Social, so connecting with others. Over we're 3 years away from all the craziness, but connection might be still hard. Just because we've been so remote over the years. So what does that look like if I were to rekindle connections with friends or family, doing social things? It could be spirituality, so seeking purpose and meaning, things like that. And then vocational, so finding fulfillment at work. So these are all kind of 7 big pillars in life that ideally, if they're all kind of aligned, we're feeling pretty good. We're never, I don't think any of these are ever perfect, but so when you're writing your vision, taking maybe 1 or 2 of these that you might feel like, hey, I need to work on that in 2023. Envision, what does that look like? What does it look like if you were to accomplish that, or ideally look at like emotional? What does that look like if Josh decided to focus on emotional in 2023? Maybe that's being more vulnerable. So what does that look like when Josh is vulnerable? What are some of the changes that might need to happen? How does that feel? How does the others around you feel? And that's what you'd be writing about there. So what I'll end up doing, we'll take about, like I said, I'll give us about 5 minutes with the visioning using the steps. And again, before I start, make sure we're feeling good. So it's gonna be picking a topic, a time frame. I would encourage like a year and being specific with a date. So saying something like December 31st, 2023. It is a beautiful snowy day. But like, it doesn't have to be it can be kind of a story, but you're kind of capturing that moment. A lot of times I'll describe the environment first and then I'll go in, but when I vision, but you can do a little bit differently. And then from there, just kind of dreaming what that would look like. Any questions before kind of writing a vision of what, you're gonna accomplish in 2023? Any questions? Make sure I have the comments. Good. Awesome. Again, feel free to unmute yourself or anything like that. But okay. So what I'll do is I'll get be some nice silence, but feel free to talk. I'll give us a nice 5 minutes. This probably won't be a complete vision. If it is, cool. I'll go in 3, 2, 1. We'll go 5 minutes starting now. So just kind of writing. And again, if you have questions, chime in. So I'll actually be working on mine a little bit as well.
Josh, would you pick just certain ones of the 7? Because trying to tackle multiple ones of these could be a lot.
100%. No, I wouldn't do all 7.
Yeah,
I'd probably pick 1 or 2 that either are most interest you. I would start with most interest or you would like to improve in. It could even be something you're already good at. It doesn't have to be something you're not good at too. So
I guess if you feel successful, right, maybe you'll keep trying harder on other things.
Yeah. And like I talked earlier, you don't have to be perfectly balanced in this either. We can be unbalanced as long as it kind of fits in with our values and purpose. I feel like I'm fairly good with physical, but like even now, like this year, I do want to focus a little bit more on that and improving in that. So even though it's something I feel like I'm pretty good at, I'll still probably, like this year, I do have some goals to help me be more consistent and stuff like that. And also long term too, like a vision can have several sections, but we don't need to go crazy. Let's go about another 2 minutes. And if you're watching this recording, you can just fast forward, 5 minutes ahead, and we'll probably be talking about something. So let's go about another minute. Perfect. Yeah, and we'll wrap it up. If you're still writing again, you can always work on these going forward as well. So as we vision, and again, I think some of us hopped in a little bit later too. So in the comments, there is a link to a copy of this outline as well, just so you know what's kind of coming up if you're hopping in a little bit later with that. And then, I'll hop back over to slideshow. So the next thing, so after we have their vision, what we're going to end up doing is breaking down the vision. So what you want to do is kind of look through some of, the highlights. So in this story, or what you wrote about in the future, what are some of the things that, excite you or stick out to you? And you might want to write those down separately. So in our, I'm going to flip back and forth. So going to the worksheet here, you'll see that it says, what does it look like in 12 months? And so with the vision, taking a couple of the things that stick out, maybe some of the things that you accomplished, or some of the things that you're most proud of in the future, and kind of writing those down. And those are things that you might not know how to get to, or you're not ready to start working on, but it's some of those big things that are maybe further down the road. Or again, there could be something that we want to be working on right now. So an example, just kind of sticking with maybe like the weight loss health theme, because I work a lot with that. Might be in 12 months from now, I want to be down, back to X pant size or X weight, and then breaking that down from there. So that's kind of, I wouldn't say a simple one, but it's more common one because it has a specific number versus, I've been more like going back to emotions. I've been more open and communicative with my friends or my spouse or just people. That might be a little more, a little bit harder to not necessarily harder to backtrack, just not as familiar with that. So, so yeah, what we want you to do is just kind of write down, some of the big things you're looking forward to accomplishing by the end of the year. And again, we don't have to know the how. We just have to know, hey, this is some of the things I want to do. And then importantly too is, do they kind of fit in with your values? Are these something that you actually value, or are these things that you feel that you just should value? Because there is a difference of actually kind of wanting it versus being told or like we'll kind of talk a little bit, but by friends groups or just people or social media might feel like we should value this stuff, and I feel guilty that I don't, but it's not a value of yours. So it's just going to be harder to accomplish. Not that it's impossible, it's just going to be a little bit harder to accomplish. Again, let's say weight loss to a lot of people, we're told, but if it's not a value, or it's going to be a little bit harder if you're just doing it because you were told by your doctor versus it's tied to, like, again, being able to age gracefully, have energy as I age, or play with my grandkids or my kids as they get older. So really kind of tying it back to some of those higher level things, though there's nothing wrong with, some of the funner, I'll call them superficial things either. So the next thing we'll look at, ideally I'll have a couple of those, like 2 to 3 things they were really excited about, really wanting to hit in by the end of the year, some of those wishes. And then what we're going to do is, start to break those down a little bit to, okay, what do I want to accomplish in the next 90 days? We'll even break it down to what we're going to accomplish in the 30 days. Before we do that though, there's a couple of things to understand with goal setting. So there's process, performance, and outcome. If you look up performance, I'm going to kind of make my own definition right now. Performance outcome is usually based off of like a sporting event where you have some say, but there's also another force that like winning and losing. I can do everything right, but if this other team does it right or whatever, I'm still going to lose. So that's usually a more defined performance outcome. How we're going to kind of define performance a little bit is more on how we are going to be tracking our performance of the process. So an outcome goal is something like that. Like the outcome is, I want to lose X pounds, or I want to, an outcome could be, again, going back to, well, I'm just going to stick with health, or I want to, run a marathon, or I want X, Y. That's your outcome. Then what happens is the process or the steps that I need to take to get there. And so that's really when we focus a lot on the process, the steps, continual steps. That's why we see a lot of, frequent sweaters, visits, MEPs, 100 workout challenges, all of these, because we know if you do the process, you have a very high chance of completing that outcome goal. And so we're very process driven, even though a lot of times we focus solely on the outcome versus getting a little bit more blinders and focusing on the process and setting milestones, which might be that 30, 60, 90-day marks to kind of look up and say, okay, where am I at? And that's where the performance, we call more of a performance tracker, comes in, or more like a scoreboard. So if we were using like a sports analogy, it might be halftime and we're using football, then we might be down, 21-17. Okay, I'm not really that far behind, but I am behind. So I'm gonna need to make adjustments, for the second half of this month, or maybe the second half of this 90 days. We need to make some adjustments. So that's going to kind of help tell you, I think the next slide actually has an example. Yeah. So next slide here. WIG, I always forget this, I had to write it down, but WIG is like wildly important goal. So what is like that crazy important goal we're going to be focusing on? But so in this case, it's losing 10 pounds. The measurable or the process we're doing is 12 workouts per month. we're then the performance tracker we're gonna use or the scoreboard is tracking our workouts. So I can look back and say, oh, I hit 11 workouts so far. I need to get one more in the next 3 days, or the month is over and okay, I only got 10. What am I gonna do to assure that I can get 12 in? And so that's where the performance tracker is important. And then we'll talk a little bit about a cadence of accountability through habits as well. So we'll have you do, ideally at this point, we have our big 12 for the year. We have kind of thinking about in the next 90 days, what goals would I like to either have started or have accomplished? So maybe we have some smaller goals we want to accomplish in the first quarter of the year. And then maybe we have maybe some bigger goals we want to start, accomplish at that point. So kind of looking through your 12, either your vision or your 12, and kind of writing down a handful they would like to either again have started or accomplished by 90 days. And then this is where the fun starts, is when you get to 30 days. So it just gets closer and closer. So make sure I do this right. Okay. Yeah. And so with the 90 days, the last thing we're going to do is then select, if I toggle back to that worksheet where we should be at roughly, and again, if I'm going fast, let me know, I can always slow down. Ideally we already have, so we have our 12-month, what we'd like to accomplish in the year, and then in this 12-week or roughly 90 days, what are some goals I've started, maybe I've accomplished, would like to have accomplished, or am just starting in the 80 days. And then the last one's going to be 30. So picking one, maybe two goals at most that starting in the next 30 days. So if we're starting tomorrow, the next 30 days, what do we want to accomplish? Where do we want to be at? Again, maybe let's just go weight loss because it's easy. On average, you can lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. So in 4 weeks, I'd like to be somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 8 pounds. So that's going to be my outcome goal. And then from here, you're going to want to select two, maybe 3 at most process goals. So what are the steps or actions I'm going to take to now accomplish this goal? And again, in this workshop, we are a little bit more broad because you kind of know yourself a little bit better. Again, we can, as coaches, be here to help you through those hurdles. But so if I'm going to lose weight, maybe the 3 things I'm going to focus on are going to be, hitting my workouts. So trying to get, 10 workouts in a month. My steps, like I know right now, maybe I'm only getting like 5,000 or 6,000. So maybe my goal is each day I want to get 8,000 steps just to increase my overall activity. And then maybe it's food logging or mindful eating or something nutritional, or just focusing on vegetables over the next 30 days. So maybe it's, I know I'm not getting my vegetables in so for the next 30 days, I'll make sure I get 3 servings vegetables. And then, the method I will use on that to track it might just be a sheet. So very similar to our 100 workout challenge, how we have that little card to do check marks and stuff like that. It could be something like that. It could be an app. Really anything that kind of keeps that scoreboard to know, kind of keep us winning or losing. Are you on track, slightly off course? For off course, do we need to adjust? And so really kind of having those 3 and thinking about, this is my 30-day goal. These are the 2 to 3 steps I'm going to take, and then making sure that they feel realistic. So a good question to ask is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I'm going to nail it, no questions asked, and 1 is like, yeah, there's not a chance in this world that I'm going to be able to hit this goal. Where do you feel? And if you're not really, if you're a 7, what does an 8 look like? So you're really trying to get that 8 to 10 range on confidence of executing your action plan. So for example, if I was using, I keep on the same example, if I said 8,000 steps in a day on average every day, how realistic does that look? Well, okay, I feel like maybe that one's an 8. Cool. We're working out 10 workouts a week. That's an average of 2-ish. I feel good with that, but maybe the vegetables, okay, 3 a day. I feel more like a 5. 2. Oh, I can definitely hit 2. Okay, let's start with 2 and go from there. So kind of using that to start off with our action-based goals will be helpful. And then the final step of all this, and honestly the most important step, and the one that we often I'd say, yeah, kind of look over, because is really going to be what we call habits. Come on, slide. Okay. So Habits, this is really, really great book. Read it as a team. So Atomic Habits by James Clear talks a lot about just setting up habits. So human beings, we're very about efficiency. So a lot of our injuries get when we're older is honestly just your body trying to be super efficient and using as little energy as possible to achieve the task. And our brains are kind of the same way. We try to really do whatever is easiest for us and takes the least amount of like energy or thought. And so these are just a couple quotes from the book that I really liked. Like, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your system. So again, a system could be your planning, but it also would be your habits. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. We'll talk a little bit about that. So environment can be, we all have kind of different environments from people to people, but also you have your home environment, you might have your work environment, you might have your friend environment that are slightly different, but they all do kind of shape us in our actions. And then the other one I do really like, one of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where, one, your desired behavior is normal behavior. And then the second, you already have something in common with the group. And so that's kind of one of the things we try to do is we are a community of people that for the most part have very similar goals. We're trying to be healthy, have energy. Most of us are maybe trying to lose a little bit of weight, but most of us are on a very similar journey to support each other. And the things that we are working out is normal. Trying to improve your health and your eating just holistically is normal. So self-improvement is normal, where in other circles, maybe it's not. And so having that base of support is important, especially if you don't have it in your everyday environment. So finding something like that is very important. That's one of the things we do try to create at Sperling, just to help have that support, a place of support for those goals as well. So that's very important. So a lot of times we don't often look at our environment, and we try to use willpower and it's possible. So you could totally, let's say, for example, I'm trying to lose weight, but my wife loves snacks, which is true. But we're not going to change our environment. I'm just going to use willpower to push through. Is it doable? Yes. Is it going to be very hard? Yes. So the more that we can shape our environment to fit our goals, and the environment around us is supportive, or at least somewhat supportive, the easier it's going to be for the long haul. Whether it is nutrition or any other goal, whether that's like I want to start my own business, or is my environment supportive of that versus not? So,
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, instead of thinking about like self-control, like my wife is eating snacks and I am not going to eat snacks, but I love snacks too, that kind of thing.
Yep.
How about instead of thinking like self-control, how do we change our mindset into self-care? It's like, well, I want to like love myself, or I want to be happy with my body. So I am not going to put my hand in that bag of chips kind of things. But I'm wondering, how do you change your mind? Because self-control is too hard, but also a lot of like loving yourself is really hard too.
Yeah, and again, a lot of it does, like, that's why the kind of the value. So if I align with it, even though I'm struggling with it, kind of reminding and then getting into the future too is like in that moment, let's go with snacks. I'm choosing that because they're choosing it, but because either maybe I'm hungry, maybe I'm bored, maybe it could be a whole list of emotions, or maybe it's just habit. I come home, I grab X, and then I sit down and unwind after a day's work. So that could just be a habit. So it's rewiring that. Part of it's being aware. I don't think it's ever easy. That's why we always kind of go back to, having a strong why that gets you thinking a little bit in the future and getting to thinking, because again, having a snack isn't wrong. I just say making an informed decision saying, I'm going to eat this and I'm choosing to do this. I know the benefits or pros or cons on the goal that I'm trying to achieve. I'd rather have that than you're not even aware of what you're doing and potentially not sabotaging, but you might not even know that it's actually hurting the goal that you set. And so at least having the ability to make I would say a conscious decision, because again, when we're talking about habits, I mean, our body as much as possible wants to run on like an autopilot. That's why often, like an example, like you could go from work to your house and not even really remember how you got there just because you've driven it, which is kind of scary, but you've driven it so much. So you don't really have to think as much because your body has just gotten so good at memorizing, you turn here, you stop here, you brake there. And so when it comes to, I guess, so, I mean, self-control is a part of it, but the goal of creating an environment that's supportive of it is that when self-control fails, the environment supports you. And again, it can take a long time to slowly tweak that to being, and that's why environment is really important, because we only have so much. Self-control is kind of like they say it's kind of like a tank. It's strong in the morning when you're rested, and then by the time, depending on how your day went emotionally, workload wise, all that, that tank can get depleted over time. And so when I'm depleted, if my environment supports that, so for an example, let's go back to snacking. Instead of saying no to no snacks, I bought individually wrapped trail mix instead of the giant bag of trail mix, so I don't sit down and eat the whole thing, something like that. So it's a win. So you're slowly shaping the environment to your to what your goals are. But yeah, there's always a balance of, there's like grit and self-control, all that kind of stuff does play a factor into it. But the more and more we can really control, it's the more successful you'll be. And that is going to be different for everybody, because we all have different, work, friend, living conditions, and then you have also different values too. So I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but I do think it is a combo. And the more that we can have that environment that does support at least the habit we're currently working on, maybe not all of them, but currently working on, the more likely we will be able to do it consistently.
I think that's a good one, Doris, for visioning, because you can take exactly what you're talking about, the combination of the environment, self-love, discipline, and you could just kind of go, write the perfect scenario. And then from there, you extract what you want to work on. And then you talk like you're already there. So but then you keep editing it. So it's kind of like the perfect mindfulness.
You meaning what? Like thinking of self-care as opposed to self-control?
Well, using the snack example, I guess if we were staying on the snack example, like
Sure.
and what you're saying, self-control versus self-love, because that can both of those things can go into that visioning paragraph of like 5 minutes of just fast writing it out. But then I like what you had said, Josh, about from that visioning, which is kind of like the perfect scenario or the ideal, then you extract what you need to work on. Didn't you say that?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So
And
it's just working on it.
Yeah, and maybe for a lot of people, it is self-love, like self-care. A lot of people we don't take care of ourselves a lot of the times, I think. Mhm. Okay.
One of the things I learned in one of Trent's nutrition classes
Mhm.
is like when you're shopping, well, one, shop with a list and try not to stray from the list and don't shop hungry, but to stick to the outside, outer lanes, whatever, of the store, because that's where the most healthy food is.
Yeah.
And so I do think about that when I'm shopping, although I, sometimes
The chip aisle.
sometimes I need ideas for meals if you get bored. I cook
Yeah.
basically for myself. So yeah, I get bored with eating the same thing. So I'm looking for maybe ideas of something different to eat. But it really stuck with me, because if you don't have it in the house, then you're less tempted to want it. But if you, like you said, Josh, get a small bag of something as opposed to a big bag, so that maybe if you've had a good week and I'm kind of I kind of would like a treat, treat yourself, so you can reward yourself as well, instead of always feeling like you're punishing yourself.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when we do feel bad, I mean, again, if we are very talking about food, but it could be anything, is when we do it, well, it depends, but if you're just kind of doing it out of habit, out of routine, it can feel a little bit more defeating, like, oh, I messed up, versus it's okay to make, again, especially with food and all that, some of the eating things, a conscious decision to, yes, treat yourself. Like, I do want some ice cream. Cool. Versus you're just eating it out of this pure habit, and just and again, food is easier. This can translate to over other the seven what do they call now? Yeah, other seven of holistic life. But I mean, again, nutrition's a little bit easier to kind of break down in those things. But yeah, self-love is, I mean, again, yeah, like Kathy was saying, you kind of vision that, like, what does that look like? What does that even feel like? Because again, sometimes we do think of self-love as what we see others it is, but maybe that's not actually important to me. So what do I really need? What do I need? And then the hard part, like, I know, I'm married, so a lot of times it has to be a vulnerable conversation, of asking to someone to step up, or this and that, and what does that look like? And so it can be a multi-layered thing, or small stepping stones to get to the ideal, or closer to the ideal, what it might look like. Yeah, good question. So yeah, I feel free to chime in on stuff. Just going back to the little bit of the habits. Again, this is from the book Atomic still. These are just some fun little laws. They don't all for everything, like you don't have to hit all four, but it's just nice. So like the good habit, making it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. And essentially the bad habit, do the inverse of it, make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, make it unsatisfying. And you can kind of see in life, like things that you might call bad habits, they kind of hit really well the good habit stuff. They make it obvious, they make it attractive, it's easy to do, consume, whatever, and it does leave you either momentarily or for a period of time, like, that feels great. And so like an example might be working out. So making it, let's say, more attractive might just be remembering or writing up your goal of why you're doing it. Making it easy might be, so like with sprinting, like I don't have to think about when I come into the workout, stuff like that. What does it look like to be easy? Make it satisfying. I kind of look at with working out, the satisfaction is really, your body gets endorphins and all that, so it gives you a little bit of a high. But the satisfaction might also be like with our trackers, like there's a lot of satisfaction, like doing that check mark or Xing off that box of completion. The brain actually does get a little bit of a rush from that, and an uptick of happiness by just completing the tasks that you set out to do as well. So those little things do add up over time with that. little like happy rush as well. Oops, went too far. That's okay. This one's hard to read. But this is also from the book. This is more kind of step by step on the habit. So what you kind of want to do with this is the action steps is breaking down potentially what are the habits that I need to change to make it easier. You're really just trying to make it easier, more routine. And you don't have to do like all the laws and steps. The more you do for an action, probably the more successful you'll be. But some of the big ones that I can say I use quite a bit, fill the habit scorecard, which is essentially writing down some of your current habits and becoming aware of them. So both bad and good, or when you say bad, but habits you no longer want to do and habits you would like to do, kind of writing down those. And really, I would say starting just focusing on, so if you have your goal, you have maybe 1 to 2 action steps. What's the one you, again, doesn't just picking one. It can be one you're already kind of good at, or it can be one you struggle with. But kind of saying, what are some of the steps I need to do to make this easier? 1.2 there, use, implement, implement intention. So I will put out my workout clothes at 8 p.m. at night at the foot of my bed or something like that. So really kind of spelling out the intention of it. And then the other thing I like to do also is writing out intentions like when things go bad. So for example, being like honest. So if I decide to schedule a workout after my work shift, it's hard because I've been at the gym all day. So to stay longer to work out can be hard. So it might be writing an action step of, if I'm unmotivated to work out after work, I will, well, this is a bad one, but I'll go to, is it Cumberland or whatever to get a coffee and then come back just to get out and then reset, something like that. So coming up with like, if it doesn't go well or something happens, what's going to be my thing to either maybe get me back or my plan B in that situation. So, also kind of mapping out like what happens if it does go wrong. And then using habit stacking. This one's after current habit, I will new habit. So this might be like I look at it. So I've actually paired recently. So I drink my coffee because I need it to function in the morning. I don't, but I do. And I put my multivitamins right next to it so that when I pour my coffee in the morning, my multivitamin is right next to my coffee mug. And so I pop it in. I've even gone to the step of not even opening because I got lazy for a period of time. I wouldn't even open it. I'd forget. That's right there. You don't even have to open anything. It makes it easier. So pairing stuff together helps out quite a bit. And then design your environment. So that's a little bit harder one, but make the cues of a good habit obvious and visible. So designing it's kind of just curating how many things around you can you. Another one, this kind of ties in some other ones again, like let's say snacking, like what was it? My mother-in-law made cookies. We put them in the freezer down in the basement underneath some things. Doesn't mean I can't get to them fairly easily, but they are out of sight, out of mind. I have to go downstairs, open up something and rummage through some stuff. I can still get to them, but it's going to be a little bit less likely to do that. And that does tie into some of the other ones. 2.2 I use a lot. Join a culture where you desired behavior is normal. So this can be both physical, so say like Sperling, but also it could be some virtual as well, and or like friend circles, stuff like that. So that's one of the nice things about potentially Facebook. I don't do it because I'm on social media a lot, but there's circles for any hobby or interest out there that will support you. I mean, you could be into sewing's not that weird, but if you're into sewing or whatever, there's a group out there that will be supportive and that shares the same interests. So it's kind of seeking out like-minded people for that goal can go a long way. Skipping down to like 3.1 here, reducing friction, decrease the number of steps. So again, the simpler you can make it, again, using the vitamin, I'm just that simple of taking off the cap, pouring it out, just having it right there decreases the friction and increases the lightness-y of it actually being accomplished. You go to 3.4, use the 2-minute rule. Yes, this is a big one. If you make something 2 minutes easier or harder, you're more likely to do it. So it was some of the research was like, an M&M jar in an office, if it was open versus if it had a lid, just that restriction decreased the amount of people eating the M&Ms, because there's that couple of seconds of having to open up a jar. So anything that you can make 2 minutes easier, more likely to do, anything you can make 2 minutes harder, it's going to be less likely. So even with those habits you want to stop, it's like, how do I make this more difficult to accomplish? Which is kind of counterintuitive, but automation of habits for 3.5. So this one, the best example I could think of that I use would be like when I do track food, I do go to like MyFitnessPal quite a bit, that automatically has a lot of my saved foods. So I don't have to, in the beginning, it's more work, but over time, it's more automated as you use it. That was my best example of that one that I could think of for automation that I use regularly. And then last two, use a habit tracker, keep track. So again, creating streaks, don't break the streak challenge, don't break the change challenge is really kind of a fun way and visual way. That could be on a large calendar, that could be in a notebook, that could be, I mean, I've seen people with Excel spreadsheets that are color coded and all that fun stuff. But the goal is really to track it and kind of see that streak. And the second part of that is 4.4 is really kind of setting a rule of there's a chance you're gonna break the streak, and that's okay, but not letting it go more than like a day. So, I forgot to do X, but tomorrow I'm picking it right back up, and then start the streak again. And because the further and further the streak goes of not hitting it, just the harder and harder that we're getting away from building that good habit. And so those are some of the techniques that we took from the book that I use quite a bit as well. So those are habits. So really encouraging when you have your goals and then your action steps, what are a couple of habits to make it easier or to make it harder is going to go a really long way in actually being successful in hitting those, because long term, ideally they just become automatic. You just kind of go autopilot with them the longer you do. It takes about, they say, like anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks to develop a new habit, and kind of the same to break a habit. We're all a little bit quicker, but it does kind of take that, that kind of 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the person, to both break and create. One of actually my most favorite habits I did, so I'm awful at flossing my teeth. But what I actually recently have done, actually last like year, it's worked well, is like even something as silly as, so I need to shower, that's important. And so when I shower, I don't floss in the shower, but I have enough time, if I know showering, that I have enough time to floss. So I floss after I shower. I paired those together. And so now I'm like way better at doing it than I was before, when I had to do it before bed or something like that. So now I just do it every time I shower. And you're awake and alert usually, so it's easier to do. But like stuff like that, already things that you just have to do already. What's that good thing I can add to it? So that habit stack. Perfect. Sweet. And then kind of just going back, best year ever. So really kind of looking back, ideally at this point, you might have some ideas for habits to change. Ideally you have some action steps and where you want to be in 30 days. And then some of your more long-term ones to start reviewing back. I would encourage, to look back at these, every 30 days is just a nice place, because at the end of the year, a lot of times it's really amazing the stuff that you wrote down, this time, that you either came really close to accomplishing or already have accomplished. And that's kind of one of the cool things about visioning and writing them down. They don't all come to fruition, but it does happen. And so the next thing is really looking at, what can I take action on in, ideally, like potentially tonight or even tomorrow. What is my first step I'm going to do to get closer to my goals or my 30-day goal? I know it's easy. I'll always say like Monday morning. Monday is when I'm going to start. But really, trying to think, what is the one step I can take, again, maybe tonight or tomorrow, that's going to get me closer to hitting that goal. And after that, there's a couple of things that we're doing just to kind of help with the new year. So just a reminder, we are doing the free nutrition challenge. So if your goal is more nutrition based, I really encourage you to do the nutrition challenge. We're focusing on protein, water, and then also vegetables. So fairly simplistic, but hopefully also fun, that you'll develop some good habits. There's also a check sheet. So we're using that thing of a little bit of dopamine from checking that off. And then also, we'll be doing like prize wheel stuff as well, kind of reward systems are built in for kind of encouraging that good habit. So some of the science behind that, but it's also just fun and people get results. So that's always fun. Also, if you were looking to increase your just frequency in the sense of getting more and maybe more like a fitness strong type, we do have the upgrade for 99 for unlimited for 6 weeks. And then if you really wanted like in-depth accountability, I do still have like 2 spots open for my daily accountability. So that's, we set goals and I reach out to you every single day to keep you accountable to your goal. We problem solve in the moment. We do reflections at the end of the week. We adjust based off where you're at. And so if you really wanted that every single day, Josh is bugging you with a text and checking in on you and make sure you're hitting your scorecard. That's also something we offer as well, just to kick the new year off. So a couple different levels. I would say at least at minimum, if nutrition is something, or if you're off on your water, protein, or vegetable intake, which again, a serving of vegetable is about the size of your fist. Goal is to get 3 to 5. Then I would encourage you to do the challenge. I will be doing that challenge this year as well, because my vegetable intake is awful. So thank you all. Any questions? I'd love to answer anything that's been on your all's minds as I've been rambling and talking.
It might be worked in to what you did, but I've been thinking, I'm trying to work in some good habits, but I think every evening just to take a few minutes to reflect on what went well and what didn't, just to keep in mind what it is that I'm trying to do and what I might improve or what might have sabotaged me, is what I'm thinking is something I know I want to do right away.
No, that's wonderful. Just having a time of that reflection at the end of the night, and then planning, you're kind of that scorecard for the day. Like what went well, what didn't, what are some of the adjustments I can do tomorrow, or even planning out your day. Any of those little things, the research backs it up pretty well that if you're able to do that, you are more likely to stick with your goal and accomplish it. And it doesn't have to take too long, but that's great, Kathy.
Where did you say you were putting the link for the document that has the?
Yeah, it should be right in the chat.
I didn't see it there.
Maybe
I came on late, so I don't know if I can see what was sent in the chat before I came on.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I just sent it again. Do you have it now?
Yes,
There
I
you
do.
go.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I'm still learning after 3 years of using Zoom. So. Yep. So that just kind of goes to the outline for that. Okay, good to know.
Okay. Yay.
Anything else from y'all? Any I guess questions or things you feel might be challenging or a hurdle?
I really like the 7, what was it? 7 pillars or something, 7 dimensions of wellness. So
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of interesting to think about other areas that you can work on. Yeah, and use like try to develop habits around those too. So hopefully,
Yeah, definitely. Because a lot of times, our brains, I think, do go to the same maybe dimensions, and you kind of forget like, oh yeah, there's other things that I could explore. Maybe I find interesting to work on, and working on those can sometimes correlate over to helping you with the other areas as well.
Right, like success breeds success, right? And my problem is I usually try to do all 7 things and do them all poorly. So instead, I'll just take 2.
Yes, it's much so trying to put those blinders on as much as possible, because I'm on my videos like, well, why do a couple things well when I can try to do everything well? And No, because that sounds better. Yeah, because yeah, but no, that's it. Yeah, excellent, Paula. Yeah, anything else before logging off and going on to whatever happens at 7 at night?
Right, reflection.
Reflections. Yeah.
No, this has been good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, again, also, if as you're going through these, if you want to set up again the coaches here, like we can set up, we call so in the memberships like strategy sessions, so where we can meet with you and just kind of discuss any potential areas that you're finding to be barriers. We're here for y'all. So if you find something as you're going through this and as you're testing out your actions or your processes and your challenges, like reach out to us. We're here. My email is just my name at sproutingfitness.com. So you can always bug me. So, well, thank you all so much for coming out tonight via Zoom.
Thanks, Josh.
I appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful New Year's. And again, we're here to support you throughout this. And I'll see you in the gym very shortly. So
I hope
Okay.
so.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
thanks, Barb. Thank you, Susan, Bridget, Doris. Thank you all.